also also at meeting. You see on the screen the private sector in 2010, March 2010, has been presented at meeting, and in a very successful way has been presented at Arab League, has been presented in China. But you see the second part of the slide, a very relevant moment that is interesting what they're speaking now, the assessment of the sustainability of the city. Because till Rio Plus 20, everybody was speaking about sustainability. Nobody has clear what it is, how to measure it, how to go on, how to consider concretely what is sustainable and not is sustainable. And in Rio Plus 20, come up in an event organized by our Brazilian chapter, and some ideas. And you see that the next step has been an agreement, memorandum of understanding with a nation global compact city program in Dubai, and after in Luxembourg, in innovative, to make a software according a methodology of circular sustainability. And according to this understanding, we make the software. After I don't go to explain why this is not going on, but sometimes there is also instability inside this structure of an nation. But we was in front to an event that happened every 20 years. Habitat first in Vancouver, 1976. Habitat second in what is Istanbul, and now, yesterday, in 2016, October, Quito. And in Quito, we had to present a proposal as private real estate sector. And you see on the screen, I don't enter, I have not the time to explain about the two others. One is this, and will be rewritten for our World Congress, the book that you see. But we presented an online system to make the measurement of the sustainability of the cities according to this methodology. And we made an event with participation of the Habitat, and came out naturally the idea, and first of all, I go back. We need to go in habitat free from UNEC. You see what is UNEC in green on the left to the world, because the prediction is that in next 20 years Europe will be a very big part of the world. So we have to think as a real estate industry representative of private real estate to a world situation. Well, we arrive now to the idea. You see on the screen our software that is running, and that has been adapted to the indicators of CPI, and that is giving a contribution, I think, to a quantitative way that is actually not wrong, but all the details will be this afternoon, much more detail in a meeting between 3 and 4 at our pavilion upstairs, to give to a quantitative way a qualitative analysis that is very concrete, simple, reliable, easy to understand, and much more important, involving the people. That is something very relevant, because sometimes numbers are numbers, but the involvement of people, the participation of people, the sensibility of people can give to the same numbers different interpretation. My time is running out, and I finish here. Contribution, more details you see this afternoon at the meeting between 3 and 4. Cooperation, the joint letter you see on the side, and letter of intent is ready now to go there to have a letter of intent, if I'm not wrong. And this letter of intent is something that is a gift, not only for your birthday, but I think also for all our organization. Promotion, and I finished. New York, Susan Griffin, not here? Griffin, not, okay. New York, the FIAPS USA is organized on April 4th, a very important luncheon event in New York, where it will be possible to promote this initiative. And after in Andorra, our Congress, in Moscow, and in Dubai, we will have World Habitat Day, followed by Thinkers Campus. Thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you, Enrico. We have the last intervention, but I would like you during that time also to prepare your questions. I would like to have a period of questions before we end this meeting. So now I would like to ask Mr. Farouk Mabit, Chairman and Managing Director at the Silver Line Group in Bangalore, India, President of FIAPSI India, and who will be our World President of FIAPSI in 2017-18, starting his mandate at our Congress in Andorra in late May. So I would ask Mr. Farouk Mahmoud to speak about the next steps in the cooperation between FIAPSI and UN Habitat.
Thank you, Madam President, dignitaries on the dais, Mr. Eduardo, Mr. Christine, Julia, and our President Kirkor, past President Enrico. I don't have much to say after all the veterans have spoken, but I'd like to emphasize on a couple of points. One, what Eduardo mentioned and Christine mentioned about India. The growing potential of having the software implemented there is a great position that will show its true worth and how it can be implemented in complex situations. We have a program there known as Housing for All, where 85 million homes are to be constructed in the next couple of years. Now, with all good intent, there's a dream and there's a reality. Now, to fill the gap, only time will tell whether we're going to achieve that or not. But I think this software can play a very vital and important role in India to judge the CPI. And I think the software is going to be excellent. It will prove itself once it's done there. The second aspect of it, what I would like to say is, the past leadership has supported this initiative. I think the current is giving it the thrust. And I assure you the future leadership of FIAPSI will give it the same amount of push or even more if necessary to make sure that we move forward. It's not just signing of the LOI that we have today. We have the MOU, and the most important part is the implementation. I think, as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We've got to implement this, see how it works out. What are the market surveys on this? Whether it needs improvement, it needs change, adaptability. There's no such thing as one size fits all. I think it needs to be customized to each need and requirement. Though the general parameters, the general footprint would be the same, but I think local conditions, local issues could be implemented to further upgrade the software from that perspective. I'd also like to highlight one or two important aspects of this agreement. FIAPSI, a non-profit organization in the real estate sector, and United Nations with its reputation, I think this is a win-win situation for both, and both the non-profit organizations, and I think this new partnership that we're forging ahead will build bridges and will show the world how partnership between two NGOs can work and how we can make it work well. Thank you very much, Danielle, and I hand it over to you for the questions. I think I've not exceeded my time.
Done very, very well. Thank you very much. Before I come to the questions, since time is of the essence, we have 5 months to prepare before the General Assembly. And Eduardo was mentioned that before we reach that time in September, it would be ideal if we could have some cities that implement the tools that we're talking about. Can I have a show of hands? Is there anybody in the room who thinks that they can implement this in their city with their local authorities? Yes, okay, very good. Thank you very much. So now, any questions?
Which is the city?
Kiev.
Which is the city? Kiev?
Kiev.
Kiev in Ukraine. Very good. Yes?
Maybe Madrid also.
Madrid, very good. Would you kindly bring us your business card at the end?
Of course.
Because we won't forget you. Yes, Lebanon, okay. Beirut, Lebanon. Dubai, very good. Please bring us your business cards, please. Yes? Nice, okay. Very good. We already have 5 cities. So now I'll take your question. Taichung, Taiwan, 6. Very good. Thank you very much. Now let's go to questions. Anybody has a question for our panelists? Yes, Katerina.
My question is it needed to have special skills or special like knowledge to use this tool for the city, for government, or for those who will be in touch with this tool? So what is needed specially for that?
Enrico, would you like to answer this question? Eduardo, I'm sorry, Eduardo.
Catherine, this is an excellent question because it helps also to Madrid, it helps to the other cities, Dubai, etc., that are expressing willingness to participate. This is what is different exactly with this index, is that United Nations will provide training. We have specialized tools and products that we are giving to the cities, because our idea is that at the end of the process, the city will be able to continue measuring sustainability and prosperity by yourself, because we don't have, which is nothing wrong with a company, private company doing this, creating some level of relationship and dependency. This is not our interest. Our interest is to empower the city to do this in the future, and you can always call us because we are always improving with the ideas and the products that we are developing. So we provide this training, we organize training in the cities, we create local teams working with the cities obviously, and to clarify something, data produced is data that exists in cities and governments, and where this data doesn't exist, we have developed also some tools to produce quick data, but good data that can enable us to tell us which is the state of the city and how we can measure performance. Remember, the most important thing is that even for the north, not only for poor cities in the south, many cities in the north, they don't have baseline information, where they are today, how they are changing, and which things are changing for the good and which things are not. And this is what we are doing. We are creating the baseline, the targets, and we are measuring that with you, and in order to connect to your specific programs in terms of real estate, housing, what you are developing, and to see how they are impacting as well in the city. So it's really a fantastic tool to clarify that we are not testing with you. We have already 5 years working on this. We have more than 500 cities where we are implementing this, so we know what we are doing. And I think that's important to say.
Thank you very much. I think it is very important. So the cities who are trying now, they're not guinea pigs. Actually, they can do a real study in a professional way with the guidance of Human Habitat. Lily, please.
Hi. I really show my very strong interest about this subject, but I have one question, because it's not politics, but Taiwan is not belong to the UN. So in this case, is it you will still come to Taiwan to or Taichung, to help me to? No. So how can I invite those UN people come to our country to talk to our mayor, to do some changes, for the solutions? Okay, that's my question. I don't know.
It's an extremely relevant question. Let me tell you that the UN are different bodies, different organizations, and different I would say, objectives. If you're talking about General Assembly member states, I understand the political sensibility of Taiwan versus China. But working at the technical level, we don't have absolutely no problem. And we can face not only situations like yours, but others in which, in some countries that have a strong central government, sometimes we work with municipalities or cities that represent the opposition, or that represent a completely different parties and conditions. We don't have any problem. We are a technical department, research department, working at the policy level issues. So if you invite us, we will be there as soon as we can without any problem.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we have a question from the gentleman from Madrid.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not a real estate developer, but I just want to know if you can summarize how do you simplify the index. I'm in touch with modern theories like Esther Duflo, no? With the index of poverty and development, and I don't know the theory about this sometimes complex index that in our business, mostly just one is the index, which is the nose sometimes, no? So how can this work? Thank you.
Well, no, I think we have something this afternoon on this topic.
Yes, I was just inquiring to respond to our colleague from Madrid. Today we have a tree, I hope you can come, a presentation exactly on the index. So you are invited, but it doesn't prevent me to say something now. The first thing is that we created an index that wants to capture, if I can say, the integrity of the city. We call it a holistic index in which we extract from the city the most important components that are related to development, which have to do, for instance, how productive cities are. And then you have a certain number of indicators inside this that have to do with the generation of jobs, employment, and unemployment. But as I said, why we are different, because already other indexes are capturing productivity, is how the city itself contributes or not to productivity. And we measure things that are fluid and difficult to capture, but we have already the tools and software to do that. To give you the productivity example two. One, how city generates what the economists call economies of agglomeration. In other words, some forms of economic density in the city that is prone for the generation of jobs. How densities, residential densities, infrastructure densities contribute to innovation and productivity in cities. And also how the connectivity of the city in terms of streets, in terms of transport, can contribute or not to productivity. In other words, instead of analyzing sectorally productivity or transport, we put them together. And sometimes, and this is what happened in reality, for instance, there was a well-urban forum in Medellin, which is a very innovative city in Colombia, but the connectivity factor of the city is extremely poor. So productivity is hampered by connectivity, and the index penalizes this. But the objective is not to penalize, is to understand how these interactions can be improved in order to make the city to work better. So to tell you, there are 6 dimensions with a certain number of indicators, and something that I didn't mention in my first intervention, and another very interesting difference with many indexes in the world is that, number one, we have created something that we call a basic index that compares Kiev with Mexico with Madrid, in what the cities are different or the same. But then we have another level that we call contextual, in which the objective is not to compare, but to see what is specific for your city. Even in the same country. For instance, we are working in Saudi Arabia, in which we have for Jeddah, the port part, some indicators related to the productivity of the port and the environmental conditions that the port is generating in terms of pollution, etc. But we have Mecca, in which we have indicators associated to religious tourism and development. And this difference of indicators are captured by the index, because the main objective, and I repeat, the main objective is not only measurement, it's not a metric, it's a policy. It's a policy dialogue. It's a way in which we want to tell you how to improve over time development. And if may I respond just one more thing, we have 0 minutes to talk.
That's right, exactly.
30 seconds is to say that for a city of the size of Madrid, as we are working, for instance, in other large agglomeration, Mexico, Bogota, is to measure the prosperity in subsectors of the city. They can be municipalities, they can be councils, they can be counties, they can be communes in France, and all this gives you the possibility to understand how the city performs in the different components of the city, because one aggregated value for such a large agglomeration doesn't tell too much, but what tells you, and this is the case in Bogota, that the difference of one neighborhood or that one municipality compared with the other is so big that it's larger than one city to another city in Colombia. So inside the city.
Thank you very much, Eduardo. Well, I think we have to have the last question at the end. Can you
Yes.
maybe you want, because we have to leave the room now. There's another conference. So maybe you want to ask the panelists directly. I thank the panelists very much for their intervention. I invite you all at 3 o'clock in our booth. And right now, there's going to be the signature of the letter of intent in the FIAPSI Pavilion. So you're all welcome. Thank you very much.